Welcome back, listeners, to Diversion Insights. My guest today is Chris Romes, the COO of RecoveryTrek. RecoveryTrek is a recovery monitoring and drug testing technology company that has been working in the substance abuse recovery space since 2011, I believe. They build testing programs and case management tools for treatment centers, employers, drug and family courts, licensure boards, and professional health monitoring programs. Their best known product is Proof, a remote testing platform that lets people complete drug and alcohol screening from home or anywhere, any time of day. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Welcome, Chris, to the podcast.
Thank you, Terri. Glad to be here, and perfect tee up. That's exactly what we do, and I'm happy to talk further about it.
Great. Let's start by telling us what makes your product unique.
Sure. Well, RecoveryTrek, we're a 15-year-old company. We celebrate 15 years this year. Proof is a unique product because we, in the seat that we're in, we work with all different types of entities in the performance of helping folks in their recovery journey to stay on track. That's how we look at it. And I kind of like to say we're forming a circle around an individual to help them with their care. And in that, we're linking hands, we're a part of it. We're the administrator who's working with the labs or boards maybe, or professional monitoring organizations. That's one of our partners. We work with the labs who provide the different drug testing options and the drug panel options. We work with software, our own software that helps provide the results, and we work with the participants, and we work with the collection sites, right? So we're all in this together to help the individual. And doing this for 15 years now with RecoveryTrek, we've seen that there's one area in that link. There's one chain in that link that seems to always be a problem. And for no fault of their own, but the collection site itself, the collection, is where we see the most problems in overseeing the management of this. So either poorly staffed or understaffed, or we send someone to a collection site that's supposed to have an observed collection, and then when the participant arrives there, there's no one to do the observed collection. There are a variety of reasons, and again, all well intended. But it seems like the most problematic link in that chain is the collection site. Proof is a way that we have introduced a product to help augment or totally resolve that issue. So Proof is our collection site arm, basically. So we still work with collection sites, and we'll send participants to collection sites, but there's certain programs that we work with or partners that we work with that use Proof either totally in place of collection sites or to help augment it for those who maybe are in remote areas, or for those with different testing schedules where they can't find the availability of a collection site option. So same panels, same laboratories that we're sending test samples to be resulted, but the collection process itself is augmented in a way that's totally controlled by us, and what we feel is a much better collection site experience or collection experience.
Okay. So who is your product mainly for? Do you have a market for this within a healthcare system if they suspect somebody of impairment or diversion, or is it more on the recovery treatment side to monitor compliance there?
Yeah, it could be both. I mean, our company works predominantly on the monitoring treatment side. We work with boards and state licensure boards from coast to coast, and some up in Canada as well. But we, through Proof and through the ability to have a remote observed collection that's recorded and monitored on the back end also. So it's not just totally remote, it's observed by an individual as well. But now Proof is broaching into areas that we may not typically perform in otherwise. But predominantly we're working with state boards monitoring professionals.
Is it something that a facility could have on hand for when the need arises, rather than bringing in a collection agency if they've got somebody that's involved in an active investigation, and then they could use proof as part of their investigation? Or do
Oh
they
yeah.
need to reach? Okay, so they can keep it on hand.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In fact, I will, I don't want to look like I'm hawking anything, but I'm showing you. So this is a proof kit. So this
Okay.
is what it looks like. So here's an example of one. Now we have different modality testing options. This is a saliva kit. You can tell that right away by the packaging. But this is a kit that we can send either to a facility in bulk to have on hand. So this is now your collection site instead of 123 Main Street. Or we can send these directly to individuals or folks who are in monitoring. The ordering is very easy, either through our e-commerce platform for individual orders, or we just work with the facility to answer your question, where we could just send these in bulk to the facility. And this is everything is that's needed for a collection is right in here. If you'll allow me, I'll just show you real quick.
Sure.
The sleeve comes off, the box opens up and actually creates a testing room. This is where you would put like a smartphone. We've created our own stand because we don't, we want to see a whole collection. We want to see a workspace. We don't want to have it like a FaceTime video where it's shooting upwards. So it creates a stand, and then your testing materials package is sealed. Now this is a demo, so I have it where I can quickly open it. But this would be tamper-proof sealed. And when the individual is selected to test, or they're told, to take a test, they start up the smartphone, go to the application or the browser, start a test. It starts the recording, and then Proof walks them through step by step. And the first thing we do is open this up on camera, in full view of the camera, and this is their testing. So yeah, these are easily shipped and held by a facility for very easy distribution.
Okay. All right. So yeah, let's talk about that then in terms of the remote. And so they're using their camera essentially to film themselves,
Yeah.
do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Now, see, in our instance here, we're from shoulder up talking because we're having a nice conversation on a podcast.
Yeah.
For a remote collection, the camera view is a bit different, where it pulls back, and we do this, through our technology. Pulls back. We've got a clear view of the workspace, and I like to say from seal to seal, we see everything. And everything's recorded. So from the breaking of the tamper-proof seal of the testing materials package that contains the COC, we might be using an electronic chain of custody, the testing device, the materials, and the return to lab are all contained in that. So we see it all open. And then our application will walk them through each step, say for a oral fluid saliva test. We might break the test down into 12 easy to follow steps. We have visuals on screen. We have audio that speaks to them and walks them through and says, okay, now open up this. Now put the swab in your mouth, and the timer is going to start automatically. Just keep it in your mouth during the duration of this timer. And we walk them all the way through to the final seal, which is them not only completing the test, but sealing it up into the clinical pack to go back to the laboratory, overnight to the laboratory. We see the filling of the COC, the chain of custody form being put in the packaging correctly. We even get a scan of the FedEx in most cases back to the laboratory, so we can track that back to the lab. And then the recording ends. So we see the opening of all your testing material packages and the sealing of all your completed testing materials, all within camera and within the app.
Okay. I know you have some AI technology, so I want to talk about that too. But while they're filming and actually performing all of those steps, does your program recognize if they're doing something wrong, or is it just instructing them and we're assuming, and then later when somebody views it, you may discover oh, they didn't do what they were supposed to do?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and it's really evolved. We kicked this off in 2020, and it's come a long way along the journey. We're including to, or we're adding more and more AI technology as the AI technology enhances. So to answer your question, it's yes to both. So during the testing, like when we do the check on whether you're far enough away from the camera, is your camera positioned properly, we'll have like a red, it's not working until you get into proper view, and then it's green and we're good to go. We will never stop a test because there's times where someone might want to manipulate a test, and we'll let them do that. We won't stop it. We will see it on the back end and we will let you know. But yeah, there's checks, there's AI checks all the way through it. In fact, one of the best ones is to even start the test, we set up what's called PIP, a Proof Identity Profile. So the very first time that I use this application, I will take out my license, I'll do, or passport, or government ID of any sort, and we will do a scan of the front and the back of that license, and then we'll hold it. Then we'll also do a face scan for the individual, and then they start testing. Now, the next time they log into the app and any subsequent login, it does a face scan, and the AI is doing two checks. Number one, it's checking against the ID that's on file and giving a probability match score. And it's also doing a scan against the last time they logged into the app, because maybe I've grown a beard or maybe I've cut my hair, and it gives a probability match. Now, it'll continue the test, but on the back end, we know those scorings and we can pass that along. So there's AI checks all the way through it, to answer your question. And anything that has to be adjusted, we'll do pauses until they adjust it, especially if they leave camera. Like if I were doing a recording right now and I were to head over to my left, maybe you're right, and I were to head off, the app would start beeping at me until I got back in. And that would be failure, basically. And then on the back end, what we do is we actually employ a team of real humans, real individuals, the same folks who package these packages. And, we ship them from our office locally, so we control the distribution. We know what goes in here. We know the sanitation measurements we put in to make sure that good, clean packages are going out. That same team is certified with us to do the collection review on the back end. So our promise is within 24 hours, it's reviewed by an actual human who does a check against the AI to make sure that AI caught everything and the scores were accurate. And then it does just a full review and then puts a score on it saying it was, yes, a valid collection, or no, it was an invalid collection based on the scoring criteria.
Okay. And then, the scoring criteria probably was that look like an honest mistake and didn't follow instructions versus trying to manipulate and get away with something.
Yeah, and our the folks that we work with, our partners, the entities that are doing the testing or the monitoring for the participant, they actually get a scorecard immediately upon review, so they know what took place. And the scorecard isn't just a, hey, it's good, or no, it's bad. It's a detailed, like about 20 points depending on the different tests, and it says that this was accepted, this was moderate, this was a failure, and goes through each one of the steps. And then we supply the video as well. So the monitoring board has a copy of that video. We give them the timestamps, and we say at 11:34, Terri stepped out of frame, so they can go straight to that area and see it. So those that are in charge of the testing or in charge of the monitoring are much more informed than they would be otherwise.
Okay. Have you had any chain of custody issues? Because it's mailed. I mean, you've got the barcodes and all of that, and so then when you receive it, how do you close that loop? Just to
it's a good question. If you think about it this way, there's three major steps to go with any drug collection. The first step is you're set up in the system and you're alerted to take the test, right? So that the setup is step one. Number two is you actually take the test. The participant takes the test. Third is the lab results it. Proof is really, in its most simplest form, is just taking that second step only. The first step remains the same. So however the individual gets the notice to test, they test. However the lab normally gets the collection, they get it. So the chain of custody is the same process. So long story short, the chain of custody is the same. We have customized, well, we have two options. We have customized hard chain of custody forms, and we're evolving with the technology of our laboratories to introduce more electronic chain of custody forms. But in either case, they'll have a specimen barcode, and in most cases on the form itself. We customize this chain to include several barcodes. We'll put one on the outside of the box. We actually use this, our participants use this to scan into the app. So they'll do the facial recognition into the app. And then when they go to take the test, they scan this and it brings them to the accurate test. So now we know that this is specimen 123, basically. And on our end, we match that, yep, 123 did go to this individual. Then when they're filling out the COC, that barcode is the same. We'll do a barcode scan also throughout after post collection. When it's sealed, we'll do a barcode scan depending on the device and depending on the testing modality. And then the COC will be included in the sealed specimen bag that goes into the clinical pack to go back to the laboratory. And then that's scanned on the way back. So the chain of custody doesn't break. Just like it would if you go to a collection site. Same with proof.
Okay.
And then we watch that process as well.
Okay. How do you handle that? That one was saliva, fairly easy, I mean, easy in terms of your screen. How do you handle a urine?
That's a tough one. So now I'm holding up urine. So here's this one. So urine,
screen goes wider.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's the good news: is urine is the only collection out of all our testing modalities that we'll see someone cut their nails on camera for a nail test, right? If we wanted to go back and get a real nice, good history of an individual's use, we will do a breath test. We'll do a saliva test. We have a whole blood option. I'm sure we'll talk about all that. But we see all the collections. The only one we don't is the urine.
Urine is the only one that you don't see on camera.
Yeah, urine, we do not do the collection on camera. We work with a laboratory. One of our laboratory partners has a DNA component option for a urine collection. So what we will do for all of our urine DNA urine collections is they're still going to use the application, and we're still going to see a lot of the vial transfer, and I'll talk about that because I think that's very important to see that on camera. But we'll have the individual start the app, start the collection. We see them open up the collection cup, so we know that it's sealed and it is contained in this as well. We'll see it open, and then we'll ask them to go and use the restroom and make sure that they do a void properly. When they come back, then we see the collection cup. And then from that point forward, everything else is on camera. So we'll see the transfer of the cup into the vials. We use vacutainer tubes. So it's a vacutainer collection. So the ick factor of urine transfer is eliminated. So it's nice and clean for those who are like me and are OCD and want to make sure they keep a nice clean workspace. So a nice vial transfer, so that's easy, but we see it on camera, and I think that's important because we want to make sure that someone's not manipulating the test. So we'll see that one cup, and we'll see 3 tubes of urine filled from that cup, 10 milliliters each. 2 of them are standard urine tubes, vial A, vial B, if there needs to be a send out, so that's held by the lab for a reconfirmation as necessary, and then a 3rd tube containing an EDTA tube for the preservative in case there's any urine that needs to be additionally extracted for a DNA check. Then we'll watch the individual take I actually have one, a swab, oral fluid swab, and swab the inside of their cheek. And then we'll see all of that packaged up and sent back to the laboratory. The laboratory then does a DNA test against the oral swab that was collected and the urine that was sent in. So that's how the DNA is done. But the whole transfer is all on camera. And we think that's important because we know of folks who might manipulate the urine going into the vials. So regardless of this being the first test or the 20th test that someone does, we're going to go through that whole process and we're going to go through it on camera.
Okay. So the way around that would be if they had urine that they were just keeping that they knew was clean and they could put it in the vials, but I don't know.
Yeah. And like, how can you manipulate the urine test? Well, if there's a test, you're going to find a way to manipulate it somehow. But with proof, we try to beat it in any instance.
Right.
Here's what is most probable is if there's an individual who I know that I'm going to fail this test, but I have a friend who I know is not going to fail the test. And if I'm not doing this on camera, I'll go through all the DNA steps and I will fill up 2 vials, but one of them will be mine, but the other one will not be mine. The other one will be my buddy who I know is clean. And then they'll both go to the lab. And then I'll hold my breath and see. It's a roll of the dice, 50-50. A way that you might manipulate it is you take a chance with the reconfirmation process. I send in 2 vials, but you didn't see the cup that those came from. So what you don't know, if it's done outside of proof, is you don't know that there's 2 different urines in vial A versus vial B. And then vial A is mine, it gets tested, and it comes up positive or non-negative. And then I say, well, I dispute that. I want a reconfirmation. So the lab will then send vial B to another lab that's not DNA authenticating this and is purely doing a drug test. And vial B is, surprise, surprise, clean because it's someone else's urine. But no one knows that outside of the individual who collected, which is why we think it's important to see the transfer of the urine from the cup into the vials.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. So let's talk about the different specimens. We've talked about saliva, we've talked about urine. So what about nail? Like when would somebody use nail? And I hear you have to cut pretty far down on the nail. Is that true?
Yeah, nail's fun because we can learn a lot from a nail. Now, normally you wouldn't be introducing nail as a routine random test that you would throw in every few weeks. Nail's a specialty test, as we would say.
Yep.
We see it a lot on intakes. So if there's someone who's fresh into recovery or fresh into treatment, and we want to, or the monitoring board wants a nice long history of the individual, we can go up to about 6 months on nail, depending on the substance, a good 3 to 6 month window. So that's when you would use it. You would also use it like if someone has been testing pretty regularly with the more standard, like a more standard 9-panel urine or an oral fluid, and then all of a sudden they just fell off a cliff and something is going terribly wrong and things aren't going right with their monitoring, and we want a quick look back into what's been happening over the last few months. That's when you would do a nail. And you're right.
I could see it used with a facility as well. If they're trying to, if they suspect somebody with a real short acting and maybe they went out on leave and now they're coming back and they want to continue the investigation, but they've sort of lost that immediate window.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. You're exactly right. It's if we want to go back in time and get a snapshot of what has happened in the last 3 to 6 months, perfect time for a nail. And so, nail is a specialty test, and it can be done through proof. You hear of hair panels and you hear of nail panels, and they're really the exact same panel. So whether you go into a facility, because most people are used to thinking of going into a facility for a hair test. Now you can go into a facility for a nail test. First off, they make you cut your nails anyhow. So a collector is not cutting your nails. You're still doing it in a facility. But most times it's a hair test, but hair is very difficult to do at home. I'd have a hard time. I've got short hair. someone else might have a better time with it, but still it's awkward. For collection, at least at home, nail is very easy to do at home. And it has the exact same panel matches. So anything that you can do in hair, you can do in nail. And in fact, nail does carry a longer detection window with certain substances anyhow. So it's a good test, a superior test. And at home, through the proof application, we'll do the same thing. So I can hold up a nail test. So this is a test. Here's an option. We've got one of these for everyone. But the nail contains a nail clipper. I don't have this on my desk, but the nail collection in the testing material package, you'll get a sealed package that contains a nail clipper, and the nail clipper is sheathed. So then we instruct the individual. So we see that opened up on camera. Yes, to your earlier point, you do need a good amount of nail. This is one of the pre-checks. We'll say you'll want about the width of the side of a quarter, basically, is what you want to see as far as white space on your nail. And then
so I have to hold them up for you so you can see whether I'm telling the truth. I don't have any nails. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it looks like you've taken one of our nail tests because you're doing it correctly. Yeah, we actually hold them up to do a proof that they've got enough to get started. That's one of the AI checks. And then we'll see them cut all 10 nails on camera.
All 10. Okay.
All 10. The nail collector that we use actually sheathes all the nail clippings, so they're not flying all over the place, in other words. So the person has to go to their kitchen sink to get half of their sample. It's all sheathed. Then we'll see that extracted. We'll see the sheath removed, it put into the foiled up. So we can do a nail test at home, very easy. And that's one of the ones we see, we see often as you mentioned, those that want to look back at a certain amount of lost history for an individual.
Okay. All right. So then a hair panel, similar, but you've got to pull it out by the root. I actually heard a case where somebody said, you're going to do a hair, and they came in bald. They had cut their hair, shaved their head.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, yeah. That's a pretty good sign. There's a problem.
That's happened. And in most cases, what we get a lot, because we'll work with those who go out for a hair test, and what we get often, Terri, is a QNS, quantity non-sufficient. And it's because of the relationship between the individual collector and the individual participant. They have to get a certain amount of hair, and let's say 8 out of 10 times, we'll see where they just do not get enough hair for that test that's being conducted. And it's purely because I feel bad that I have to extract this much hair from this individual.
Yeah, it'd be different if you could just cut a little snippet from me, but you're actually pulling it out of my head, right?
You're right. Yeah. And it's got to go all the way up to the root. So it's not fun. It's the root canal of drug testing.
Yeah. Is there any time when a hair would be preferred over a nail, or is it just another option in case you don't have nail?
No, it's the exact same panels. And if someone doesn't have nail, real easily, and we do this all the time, is we just tell the individual that they're going to be tested in 2 weeks. We're sending this out to them. Do not cut your nails for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks if you want to be ultra conservative, and just make sure that you have enough at that point. There's nothing that they can do within the 2-3 week window to manipulate or alter their drug chemistry. So that's fine. But yeah, that's the one test that you can give someone a window of instruction of about 2-3 weeks to say, don't do anything, just wait.
Right.
But yeah, it's the exact, in fact, the labs, when you see the panel specs, most of the labs call their panel specs hair/nail, the exact same panel specs.
Okay. So no real advantage to do the hair over the nail.
No.
Okay.
Not just what you have.
Okay. So one more, blood, right?
Yeah. So there's a couple of ways that we do blood. And it really comes to the preference and pain tolerance of the individual who is collecting. We do blood PET tests for those, for a at-home collection. We do a blood finger prick, which is what most people think of when they think of the blood PET test. So again, we have the kit. I'll stop holding them up, but the kit goes out to the individual. In the kit, they open it up on camera, and their testing device in this case is that lancet that probably most people in your audience are familiar with this. Yeah. And they'll prick their finger with the lancet, and then we'll do the card, the dry blood card drop collection. So that is one way of doing the blood PET test, and it's a good option, but we do hear at times that that's a painful option. So there's another option that we've introduced, and it's emerging science or it's emerging device product advancement, but we have a whole blood test option through Proof, where we can actually do a microtainer of blood collection. And this is a neat process. And again, this is all sent to the individual who's the participant who's doing the test. But in their testing materials package, to go back to that, to make sure that every one of these tests run the same way, where it's all opened on camera and we're seeing everything. They'll lift up their arm here. They'll put a heating pad on, heat up their arm, and then there's a little collection device that is put onto the arm with the microtainer tube. They push down on the plunger of the collection device, and it'll extract a whole blood sample in about 2 minutes max. Now, how this is done is, whereas Lancet for the finger prick is a real quick hit with one shard collection, the whole blood there's a ring inside the device itself, and the ring contains 20 different micro needles. Now, these micro needles, to go back to hair, are thinner than your eyelash. So 20 micro needles that form a ring in this device. And when it is deployed and hits your skin, you don't feel it, which is nice. And I know this for a fact because I test every one of these devices before we put them into production. So I've done the finger prick, and I would say, just even statistically, I guess what they say, it's rated on the pain scale from 1 to 10. It's an 8 on the finger prick. The whole blood collection extraction is a pain scale of 0 to 1. I actually didn't even feel it. I didn't know until.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's a really neat option for collection, and this is new. We just introduced it in the last year, and we provide it as an option. So if someone's doing a PET test, they can do the traditional dry blood spot route, or they can do the new feature of a whole blood collection. And I'll say there's people who prefer one over the other, but we are seeing the preference really skew towards a whole blood collection. And that microtainer tube, we're still just testing for PET only, but the hope is, with the advancement of the labs, that maybe we'll be able to do more testing through the microtainer collection, or maybe 2 vials of the microtainer collection. So that's determined. That's down the road. That's the future. We don't want to make any Theranos promises by any means, but yeah, it's a really neat way to extract whole blood for a simple collection at home.
And they're both in the kit. The person can choose which one they want to do.
No, that's a good. I'm glad that you asked for that distinction. No, what we will do, and we have a resources page like on our website. When we're in the discovery with either an individual who's testing, or we're dealing with an entity that's testing individuals through their monitoring board or program or facility, we'll talk through these options. Then we'll bring them over to our resources page. On our resources page, we have a tutorial and an overview of each one of these collections. And then the individual says, okay, I'm going to be doing the dry blood spot, or I'm going to be doing the whole blood. And then that will be their option, and that will be the only one sent to them.
Okay. All right. In terms of the drug panels, are they standard panels? Would a facility pick what panels they want? I mean, what I have learned in the past few years and had it reiterated is that often fentanyl is not even included in a panel, which is one of your basic meds we should be checking for in a facility.
Yeah.
So how are the panels? How do they work?
Yeah, well, we have standard pen. Well, in short, I can say that if science can test it, uh, because we're not the lab, we work with labs, and we have
Okay.
a variety of different labs we work with. So if science can test it, and there's a lab testing it, we can get it tested. Now
Okay.
we work because the majority, or the majority of our folks that are testing are in monitoring, and we're looking
Sure.
for aggressive drugs of abuse. We're looking at that. So actually, what we would call our standard oral fluid panel does contain fentanyl as one of the test options. Our standard urine DNA contains fentanyl as well, and that's because it's become. If we had this conversation 3 years ago, it probably wasn't in our standard panel. Well, now it is, and because of the fluidity of the of our option, we are not the lab. We work with all, SAMHSA
Okay.
certified or accredited laboratories as partner options. So if they can test it and it can be collected, we can do it. But
Okay.
yeah, for us, just in general, our standard oral fluid, our standard DNA panels will have fentanyl in it. We normally do an extended 9 panel that has synthetics and opioids, included in that panel. That's kind of our base and where we start, and then we can go wherever the science goes and the need goes. We can go.
Okay. So does your customer, not the patient, but the customer who's wanting
Yeah.
them to test, does the customer work that panel out with you or with their chosen lab?
No, with us. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And you're right. We don't want to work with the participant on this.
Yeah.
Although every now and then we do get a call from
Yeah.
someone, hey, what's in that 9 panel? And we don't answer that question. But yeah,
Okay.
we work with our customer, our partner, and we will advise. This is what other folks are doing. These are the reasons they're doing it. These are the circumstances in which they're doing it. So
Yeah.
we will be there as an advisor, and then we will learn from them. Hey, in my area, which is really interesting, doing this. I'm talking to you sitting in Norfolk, Virginia, but we might have a individual program of ours out in New Mexico, for instance. And this is a real life, for instance, where I heard things coming out of Albuquerque that hadn't even touched this area yet. So we'll work with that individual in that testing body, and then we've customized panels. Either the lab has it or the lab needs to get it. And then we're the ones who goes to the lab and says, I need this 9 panel, but I need this added to it for this particular customer. But yeah, we'll work that out directly with the customer, and then we'll go and work with our lab partners to get it done for them.
Okay. So it's possible to work with the lab through you to even add things that are not federally listed as controlled substances, like propofol or gabapentin or even diphenhydramine. We've been seeing more and more of that being combined with things and
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And the evolution of this goes where sometimes we'll have it as an add-on. So we have the evolution step 1 would be, okay, we want this panel that's already locked and loaded in price, but we're going to add on this particular, gabapentin as an example. And then the lab recognizes that, and about 6 months later, we're to evolution number 2, which is now they have a panel with that built in. Or we have enough drug testing volume that we're going to them and saying, this has become a problem and we need a panel that has this. But we control all of that with the laboratory partner. So our customer, our partner doesn't have to deal with that. That's our responsibility.
Yeah. Do you ever see your product used at home, like with parents of children? to keep it
Yes.
at home? I mean, like, I'm the pharmacist mom, right? I had a 9-panel or 13-panel or whatever in the bathroom cupboard. It's like, I can test you anytime I want.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have. And again, because we are, we're RecoveryTrek. That's the logo you see behind me. That's our company. And then an offshoot of that company is Proof, which is the collection site arm. And while RecoveryTrek has a limited audience of, monitoring boards and programs, as it's saying, Proof, we have seen, is expanding into all different areas. And one of them being parents at home use. You're exactly right. Where we're seeing more of that request because it's less invasive. I'm a parent also, and I was a parent of teenagers at one point. Right now, I'm an empty nester, so I'm more relaxed than I used to be.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I know that feeling, and we understand that. And yeah, Proof has been used in those instances. And it's really neat to see how Proof is used. We just anecdotally, I'll share with you, we like to say, and I appreciate you saying it in the tee up to the conversation, anyone, anytime, anywhere. But the stats really prove that out. And the stats that I love to see is, first off, we'll do a scan. We're not looking for any chaos or any issues, but we do notice where the person's testing. And we do log that this is an office, or this is a place of work, or this is home, or this is outside. We actually log that because I think it's important for folks to know, this person did it in their car. It's not the best way to do it. Get them in front of a workstation next time, that kind of thing. But we've noticed more and more home use over office use. And then the time of collection is really fun for us also, because we say standard operating hours for a collection site are between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. And I think anyone who's dealt with collection sites know that we are being overly generous with that operating window. But we're going to say is between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. And then we do a couple buckets. We do standard operating hours and then after hours. And over 55% of all of our collections are at home after hours. So that speaks to the audience, and that is, they're finding that this is convenient to do. I can do it after my shift as opposed to interrupting my shift. That, to your point, yes, it's expanded into areas that we may not have initially even thought we'd be going. We're seeing at-home use as well.
Yeah, no, all that makes sense. So the AI, you've touched on some of the things that your AI does. Is there anything that you haven't talked about where the AI comes into play during the process?
Yeah, so the AI process in the beginning is really big. It's the checks during it. And then we have moved into one thing that I didn't hit was, and we don't use this normally for our monitoring boards, but like in workplace testing, where someone needs a quick read, we have had an advancement where we're working with some devices that are the point of care collection devices that can actually, like for oral fluid specifically, where it can deliver an instant result. And either that's the end of it, or it can then be sent to a lab for lab confirmation. And our AI has advanced to the point where we now do the read itself, the application also. So we will take I think we do have one. So here's an example of a rapid fluid, oral fluid rapid device. And where on a lot of these for commercial use, you will see the drugs of use listed. We have non-listed drug use ones, so the individual has no idea what's taking place.
Okay.
So they're not, and then therefore they're not responsible for the read. So they're not responsible for saying, "Oh yeah, I'm clean, we're good." What they do is hold it up to the app, and the app actually reads, and then provides a result to the employer in most cases, or the testing entity, and lets them know that this was the read on the device. So that's done fully through AI as well. And then the AI is also advanced enough that if there is a non-negative here, and our partner, our customer said, hey, for any non-negatives, we need it sealed up and sent to the lab for lab confirmation. There's a whole step there of instructions that if you tested and you were negative, you wouldn't even get to those instructions, but you wouldn't even know they existed. The test would just end for you like normal. And everything. But if I tested and this became up non-negative, I would seamlessly go into a whole different instruction set, but I just wouldn't know that it's a different one. It's just continuing a process, and it flows me right to sealing this up and getting it back to the lab. So yeah, our AI, the last big advancement on our end was over the last year, getting the read of point of care tests and the subsequent instruction sets for that.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. I mean, it's a product, like you said, at the very least, it allows more convenience for those that have to do the testing, and then sounds like it ensures the accuracy as well. And so, I mean, why not?
Yeah. And what we like we joke around here that proof never takes a day off and never makes a mistake. So we like that, where you go to a collection site, you might have someone who called out that day or is having a bad day. The good news is proof is open 24/7, 365 days a week, and doesn't have a bad day. So it certainly helps in that regard.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was the perfect summary. So I want to thank you for your time, Chris. And this was really interesting. I could see it where it has a place in healthcare facilities, especially those that don't do their own in-house testing, and especially those that want to, if urine is the usual route, but they feel they need to go to nail, maybe not hair, or blood for alcohol or other things, then, it's a good option.
Yeah, terrific. Well, I appreciate you having me on today.
Right.
Thanks, Terri.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.